4 years ago, it was proclaimed that this He-Man was the best-looking He-Man on the market. It had all the attributes of the classic cartoon He-Man. But that was then. This is now. Bum, bum, bum. Hello, Botsumux fans, this is Scorp1701, and tonight we are going to be taking a look at the brand new Mattel He-Man and the Masters of the Universe He-Man from the Cartoon Collection. The collection that Mattel has just released that base their figures solely on the cartoon, which is what I always longed for, which is what 4 years ago I longed for and could only find looking at the Super 7's He-Man. But now Mattel has rectified that situation and brought us a very, very screen-accurate He-Man. A He-Man that is threatening to take the crown from the Super 7. But will it do it? I'm not sure. Tonight, we're going to review this awesome He-Man, and we're going to compare the two. So, without further ado, let's take a look at this awesome carded figure from Mattel. So first off, we will see that it is on a fairly large blister card. It is basically the same blister cards type that they are doing with the Origins line, which makes sense because why would you want to change things when you can have all of these figures scaling together? But getting back to the card, you can see it is a very nice blister card. You have 80s Adventure here, you have He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Instead of a red back, you have a nice night sky, and you have Castle Grayskull in there. That is very nice. 6+ here at the top. You can see He-Man there in the packaging. You have Cartoon Collection based in the Filmation color scheme. I like that a lot. You have Mattel down here at the bottom. And switching around to the back of the blister card, you have an awesome piece of artwork up here. This is inspired from the episode Masks of Power. It includes comic book, modernizing and celebrating the original 80s Masters of the Universe animated series, and the Cartoon Collection again. You can see some product shots of He-Man holding his sword and his other sword, and you have cross-sell of all the characters in this collection. You have, as we zoom in just a little closer to see them, you have Beastman, Man-at-Arms, and Skeletor. Coming down, you have some credits for the box and a barcode, and that is pretty much it. But no one wants to see He-Man in this little card and packaging. I know I don't. So let's get him out and see if he's the most screen-accurate man in the universe. And here we have He-Man out of the packaging, and out of the packaging, He-Man stands at 6 inches tall. He comes with an awesome comic book with a really equally awesome story. He comes with his power sword, he comes with the Sword of the Ancients, and he comes with this nice little piece of paper that tells you how many parts you can break him into. Oh my goodness, I guess that's a new thing that Mattel likes to do, is to being able to break your toys apart and mix and match them if you're so inclined. But we'll take a look at all of the accessories later. First off, I want to take a look at He-Man himself. And coming real close in on He-Man's head, I am not gonna lie, this is a beautiful screen accurate He-Man, right down to those very pensive eyes. I'm really impressed with this thing. It looks super great. So, starting with the head is the golden yellow. It should be. I love that. You have some sculpt detail in there. You have a couple waves going this way, some waves going this way. It is very mild when it comes to the sculpt, but then you're going to talk about a cartoon. There's not a lot of detail in cartoons. I'm happy they didn't give us shading effects in this, because that would have been kind of annoying. I think you do have a little bit of more detail down here at the base. You can kind of see a little bit in there in the back of the head. That is just so cool. But look at this face. these eyes, these eyebrows, very, very good. Nose and mouth are sculpted very well. I love the way this thing looks. That is so cool. Let's zoom out just a little bit to get his chest and arms in the screen. Let's go back in just a little more. So basically, he is a nice flesh tone all the way around. He has a nice blue metallic harness. You got a little bit of metallic fleck in that paint. That is just beautiful. Iron Cross red right here on his chest. Love that. That is your definitive He-Man symbol, not the little H they got these days, but you know, people say, hey, it's Christian, boo. Then you got some awesome arm sculpts and some golden bracers right here at the wrist. Nice golden belt with some bushy brown trunks. I like that. Coming down to the legs, nice muscle detail in there, and coming down to some plain brown bushy boots. That is just awesome. You do get a little detail in the boots. On the bottom of the feet, you got some peg holes and some figure identification marks, I guess. That is neat. On the back, you do get a sheath attached to his harness, and that is awesome. And it is detachable, so if you want to take this off, you can. And once you remove the sheath, you get some product detail. It's 2023 Mattel and some other figure identifications, also made in Vietnam, so that is cool. Let's go all the way out. Wow, just beautiful, beautiful looking sculpt and mold and paint job. I really, really love the way this guy looks. This is definitely right off of the screen. All right, so that's what your He-Man is going to look like. Moving on. And for our articulation, starting at the head can go around 360 degrees, very smooth. It can look up. It can kind of look down. It can wiggle and waggle to the left and right. I like that. A lot of good articulation in the head. Coming over to the shoulders, shoulders can come up from the body and then back down. They can go around 360 degrees. You do kind of get a little butterfly joint in there, kind of going in and out, just slightly. You do not have a bicep rotation. You do have a elbow bend, which is not 90 degrees. It is a very large elbow. So that's probably why it's not getting 90 degrees, because the forearms are so muscly. But the elbow bend is built into a forearm rotation, 360 degrees there. So that is nice. Coming down to your hand, and the hand can rotate 360 degrees. And it has a hinge, so it can go in and out, up and down, depending on where you have it. So moving to the center of the body, you do not have a ab crunch, so it does not go up or down. You do have waist articulation, 360 degrees around there, so that is good. Coming to the legs can go out to the side a little bit, and then back down. Going up, not much at all, and going back, not any at all, because the butt gets in the way. So there's a very limited articulation when it comes to the leg. No thigh rotation. Coming down to a knee bend. Now the knee bend is not exactly 90 degrees, but it is something that's built into this little cavity, so that's okay. Better than the original figure that had no knee bend, so I'm not going to argue that. He does have like a lower leg articulation, 360 degrees around, and then he has an actual boot cut, 360 degrees around there, and that will bring you down to his toes, which are articulated up, down, and rotate all the way around the world, 360 degrees. So that is a lot of rotation in the foot. I would say, as far as articulation goes, it doesn't do everything you would want it to do, but it does a lot more than previous He-Mans that we've took a look at. So I'm okay with it. As long as he can raise his arms and move his waist around, it's going to be okay. All right, moving on. And before we jump into the accessories, let's take a quick look at this awesome comic book included with the figure. It is called Mask of the Magi, and basically what this comic book is a sequel to the episode Masks of Power, because it deals with a lot of similar instances and things in that episode. So as you open it up, you can see it deals with Beastman being sent on an errand by Skeletor, but then this mysterious mask appears to poor Beastman and says, "Do this, and I will give you power undreamt." So Beastman says, "Yeah, I like power." He puts on the mask, and then he gets possessed by an evil magician who is part of the series. Well, it's saying that he is part of the series where the Demos and his wife Tyrella were, and those were the two main villains in the episode Masks of Power. But anyway, they go there, and the Magnus guy is going to destroy the world or some sort. He-Man comes and says, "No, you're not. We're going to stop you." He-Man calls upon the power of the Sword of the Ancients, which in the episode Masks of Power kind of merged with the Sword of Power. I guess it unmerged off screen, and He-Man buried it, but then they call upon it again, and again it merges with the Sword of Power, and He-Man defeats the Magi and frees Beastman from the possession. So yay, it all has a happy ending, and this has the figures in the line here on the back of the comic, which is really cool. So yeah, that is pretty neat if you like comics, and kind of harkens back to the original Masters of the Universe toys, so it is pretty nice. Alright, that's your comic book. Moving on. And for accessories, we're going to start off with the Sword of the Ancients, and it's really nice. It's done in just a gray plastic, but the sculpt and mold is very nice. Nice hilt there, and you got the evil face molded into the blade there. That's kind of creepy. Looks like some horns too when it comes down to the handle of the sword. So that is cool. It's both sides. You got the little face in there, and it comes down to a nice blade, so that is cool. So He-Man can hold this if he wants to, and he can kind of combine the two swords if he were so inclined. But yeah, it's pretty nice and cool little thing to have. Alright, moving on. And of course, you can't have a He-Man figure without having He-Man's power sword, and this is a very nice looking power sword. Again, it is just done in gray plastic. The handle is very nice and slim, coming up to the big huge blade, and then going down to the actual sword blade itself. Now, I wish this was a little thinner down here at the end, make it more sword-like. Right now, I just feel that it's kind of stumpy, but yeah, I guess that's what his swords always looks like. I'll actually take a minute and bring in the Super 7 He-Man sword, and you can see they are similar, except the animation sword does not have this little molded piece that fits around his hand, and that's okay. And I like the shine of the animated sword better than this one, but the Super 7 sword has the thinner blade at the top, so I don't know. It's a little difference in preference of what you like and what you don't like when it comes to an actual power sword. And He-Man could hold it and fight with it if he was so inclined, and it can go into his sheath. I like that. And yeah, this is pretty cool. And for the most part, like I said, it's a great design for the power sword. Alright, moving on. And for our first comparison, here the animated He-Man is with the Super 7, and I couldn't wait to get these two in the comparison ring. And taking a look at it, you can see that the new animated He-Man is definitely taller, but the Super 7 He-Man has a darker skin tone, which I think is more indicative of the cartoon. The sculpt is a little softer on the animated series here, which it should be, whereas you do get a lot of detail here in the Super 7 one. And if I really had to think about it, I would say that the Super 7 one was really going for a combination of the toy and the animated series, and because I can see aspects of both in this one figure. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, except if you're going for strictly cartoon accuracy, then animated He-Man is gonna win hands down. And I've always gone for cartoon accuracy when I look at my action figures. Not to mention that he has better articulation, the height is better, and it's just an all-around more updated figure than the Super 7. Not that the Super 7 is bad, it just has different aesthetics, and it really depends on what you're looking for your collection. And that's pretty much how I think these guys are gonna line up. Going around to the back, if you want to see that. Nothing that you wouldn't expect there, except for the animated He-Man does have his sheath. And yeah, so again, depending on what you want in your collection, these are two very good He-Mans. But for me, I'm afraid the new He-Man is going to take the place of the Super 7. Sorry, Super 7. Alright, moving on. And of course, you can't have a He-Man comparison without throwing in Battlecat. Now, this is the Mattel Battlecat that came out with the Origins line. And this Battlecat, in my opinion, still holds the position of best Battlecat out there. So, until another Battlecat comes along, he is going to be the best Battlecat you have. And just wanted to compare the two together, because this is really nice. And for the moment of truth, we will see if the cartoon He-Man sits on the Battlecat. And I think we have a winner. The animated He-Man sits really well on the Battlecat, and he is comfortably in the saddle, holding on, so that is really nice. Not too big, not too small, I don't think, so that looks good from every angle. Now, you do have to watch the saddle here and the sheath and make sure it gets under there. It will hold him on there additionally, and it will kind of get in the way if you're not careful. So just make sure you're aware that the sheath can get in the way, and it might be easier if you just have the sheath off when you put him on. But it's going to be up to you, and it works either way, and I think he looks great up there. Alright, and that is going to be your comparison with Battlecat. Alright, moving on. And for comparison, here you have the animated He-Man with the Super 7 Skeletor. Now, they do not look bad together, I would say. He-Man is obviously a little taller, perhaps, if we get them real close together. So yeah, it doesn't bother me that much, because I really don't display Skeletor, and I just display He-Man on Battlecat. But for your collecting purposes, that may not be what you're wanting to get. So I haven't seen the animated Skeletor on the shelves yet. When I do, I may pick him up. I'm not sure. If I do, we'll do another review and compare these two. But for the most part, I think this will work. Skeletor is a scrawny, sniveling little... Hey! What do you mean, sniveling and scrawny? Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say Skeletor is okay to be smaller than He-Man. But anyway, if you're looking for those two comparisons, there you go. Alright, moving on. And for comparison with Sheira's, I don't think there's anything that really comes to scale with him in the current lines. I believe this is their latest Origin Sheira, and this is an old Mattel Anniversary Sheira, which is actually one of my favorites in Queen Bravo's collection. But when it comes to the animated series, I don't think any of them really match up yet. But I do believe I saw a hint that they were going to be bringing Sheira into the cartoon line. I think there was a picture of her and Swiftwind on the side of one of the boxes. If they do bring her in, that will be great, and Queen Bravo will be happy, and then we'll grab her up, and I'm sure they'll bring Swiftwind, which would be great, because the Swiftwind that went with this particular Sheira was out there, but it's going for like $200-300 now, which is crazy. Alright, that is your Sheira comparisons. Moving on. And for comparison here, He-Man is with a few other characters. The Super 7 Optimus Prime, the Funko Savage World Thundercats Lion-O, and the NECA Toon Turtle Leonardo. So as you can see, the Toon accuracy is okay. I think the Lion-O is less accurate, but I couldn't put the Super 7 Lion-O out here because he didn't really scale well. But when it all comes down to it, of course, you know, Optimus doesn't scale well at all, but still, this is a good line of cartoon characters in action figure form. Alright, moving on. And for our final comparison, here you have the animated He-Man with the 40th anniversary He-Man. And you can tell that there is a big difference, not only in sculpt and size, but in just appearance of these two particular He-Men. If you are looking for an update to your original He-Man toy, the 40th anniversary is for you. If you are looking for something more akin to the trueness of the cartoon, the animated series is for you. So, these are two great He-Man figures, and they scratch two different types of itches. So depending on what you want for your collection, here are two of the very best for you to consider. Alright, moving on. And this has been the Mattel He-Man and the Masters of the Universe He-Man figure from the Cartoon Collection. And this is a fantastic figure. I really enjoyed playing with this guy. He is basically a cartoon come to life. He is that good, and I've always wanted figures that were cartoon accurate, and Mattel did not disappoint with the Cartoon Collection, and this is just a perfect He-Man figure. Well, maybe I shouldn't say perfect, because nothing's actually perfect, and I think when it comes to his sculpt and mold, it's beautiful. The paint is beautiful. The articulation is where it hits a little snag, and that's just because he is so bulky with his sculpt and mold that the joints really can't articulate as well as they could. But they built in little cavities for the joints to go to, so they did their best. The two accessories are okay. Obviously he needs his power sword, and I think the power sword mold could have been done a little better. It still looks like a squat fat sword, but whatever. That's what they gave us, and it's okay. At least it doesn't have that little line that goes around the handle for him to wrap around his fist. And the Sword of the Ancients, take it or leave it, it's a neat accessory from that episode, Masks of Power. And yeah, it's okay. So another weapon for He-Man to hold. So yeah, this is just a great figure. No complaints. If you're looking for this figure, I found mine at Target. He ranges from $15 to $17 depending on where you pick him up. And if you find him on the shelves, I would recommend to go ahead and grab them. As you can see here, I grabbed two because this is definitely one going in the museum because I think it is that good. Alright guys, that is the review. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great night, and until next time, keep playing. Next time on Bots and Books. I've done it. I've found them all. They're all mine. The Pizza Club Edition Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But which one shall I review first? But for those who've watched Bots and Books, that isn't even a question that needs to be asked. See you next time.